If you're an 8A small business, you have a 9-year window to maximize the benefits of being in that SBA program. But more often than not, companies are going 1, 2, 3 years before ever winning an 8A set-aside contract. And in fact, some 8A small businesses never, throughout the life of their 8A program participation, they never win a contract. That's just wrong, right? You didn't go to all the trouble to become an 8A certified small business not to win. In FY 2022, just to give you numbers around this, there was roughly 6,000 certified 8A small businesses within the federal space, right? But only 2,000 of them won contracts. That is just wrong, flat out wrong, right? And we want to change that. If you commit just 2 hours a day to growing your business, you can have the success that you expected as a certified small business in the federal market. The tips I'm going to share today, they're focused on 8A. Obviously, we're trying to do a celebration around the 8A, let's call it the 8A Small Business Week. The 8A conference is going on, but they're applicable to any business out there in the federal market. I'm teaching a process that anyone can follow for success in the federal market. And so hopefully you're along for the ride on how to win your first 8A contract. If you're not an 8A firm, just change 8A to how to win your first HubZone contract, right? The process is the same for all of us. Okay, if you don't know who I am, my name is Neil McDonnell. I'm the president of the GovCon Chamber of Commerce. I want to welcome you to my daily live federal sales training where I teach tips for success in the federal market. I spent 20 years as a small business owner in the federal market. And since 2018, I've been teaching people like you that government contracting is not a secret. It's just a process. If we follow the process A to Z, we're going to have predictable, repeatable success at the end. That's what I want for you. And I know that's what you want for yourself. And that's why we bring this teaching to you. Before we get started, help buyers remember who you are. Put your company name into the chat. Put 2 or 3 keywords that describe your core competency, right? Don't worry about a lot of words. A couple of words will make it sink into my memory better. It'll help it sink into the buyer's memory, and the people who are in the community with you will all begin to remember what you do when you make it easy for us. Let me know, by the way, where you're joining us from. The GovCon Chamber of Commerce, since we had 300 members, has supported members from Guam to the U.S. Virgin Islands and every state in between. I'd love to know where you're coming from, so put your city and state into the chat. If you're on YouTube or Facebook or other places, please reach out to me on LinkedIn and connect with me. Let's stay connected. LinkedIn is a place where we can actually have a lot more dialogue. I use YouTube. I love it, but the dialogue really happens over here. Okay, so I'm going to dive in fairly fast into today's topic about how to get your first 8A contract in the federal market. And I want to begin with, I'm going to cover 4 main points today, just in case you're tracking. I want to begin with just having a clear focus. It's important as a federal contractor, and 8A in particular here, right? It's important to have a clear focus about who you sell to and what you do. And the reason you want to have this focus is because it helps you eliminate confusion and remove friction between you and the buyer. I want you to avoid confusing a buyer. If you go in and say, I sell this thing and this thing and this thing and this thing and this thing, well, the buyer is going to be confused. First off, they'll forget about the first thing you said because they were busy trying to remember the last thing you said. And if they're not really related, they're confused because while you're saying things to the buyer, the person you're talking to, they might be thinking, oh, you said cloud, let me go over here. Wait, you said elevator? Let me go here. Oh, you said this, let me go here. And it's different people that they might want to introduce you to. So you begin to cause a little bit of confusion with the buyer. But when you focus down into that 2 or 3 words, right? If you focus down on your core competency, it makes it easy for the buyer to help you, right? There's this great line of Jerry Maguire that says, help me help you. And focusing, if you can focus, then you're helping the buyer help you. And the buyer typically is like an acquisition or a small business professional before you get to the program office. It's the same story for supporters, right? I'm a supporter of yours. Don't confuse me by telling me too many things you do, right? There's a company out there, AssureSec. They do data security. They do all sorts of cybersecurity, but they've tightened it down into data security. I'm like, oh, data security. That's this company, Bayin, SharePoint. I begin to get it in my head. And so PTAX, Women Business Centers, the SBA district office, the small business professionals, these people, your teammates, they're all supporters of yours. And you want to make it easy for us to help you. Help me help you. All right, so 2 examples of clear focus that are must-haves that you do. The first thing is you must have a focus on the target customer that you're going after. And what I mean is pick one department, right? I usually say agency, but let me just say department. So it could be Homeland Security, it could be Department of Veterans Affairs, it could be Department of Agriculture, right? I don't care what it is, but pick one. And as long as it's big enough to be able to give you a lot of money in there, then doing your business development in there will be fine. In particular, today's training is about how to get your first 8A contract. If you're here to learn about how to get your first 8A contract or first 2 or 3 million, then you don't need to go to a lot of departments. One department can serve that need for you. And then when you've got your couple of million, then you move on to a second and a third. So pick one department, HHS, DHS, Army, Navy, whoever it is, but pick one, because then your efforts will be driven into there. The second thing that you want to have clear focus on is your core competency. That's that 2 or 3 words that make it easy for me to go, SharePoint, data security, elevators, right? I'm naming people. I'm not just picking words. I know exactly who those people are as I'm saying them. And when you have one core competency, you make it so much easier for you to have that success. And so if you agree and you understand the idea that focus is important for the success, right? You need to be focused rather than scattered. Put focused into the chat just to let me know that you're tracking on that. And I'm going to move into the first step I really want you to pay attention here is you need to maximize the visibility. So if you want to win a contract within the government space, if you want to win your first 8A contract, you need to maximize your visibility, the visibility of your company. The reason this is important, the reason it's important to maximize your visibility is because you want to be where the buyers look. It's the difference between passive marketing and active marketing. Active marketing is something you do. You go to the 8A conference, you're passing out flyers, that's active marketing, right? But if any of those people went to look for you, then they would that's passive marketing. You're not really doing it. So an example is your website. If somebody is coming to your website, they're doing the research themselves. You're not doing anything. It's passive on your side. They're being the active one. But if you're going and trying to get somebody to understand who your company is, you're doing that activity. Well, it's a 99 1% mix, meaning you can reach out to 1% of the buyers. And but the other 99%, you have to depend on your marketing assets to be able to address the questions that they have. Hey, you do data security, tell me about it. Well, my website is going to tell you about it, or some other platforms. And so the reason it's important for you to have clear visibility, to maximize the visibility, is because you want to be where the buyers are looking, be where your teammates are going to be looking. So let me just say really quickly, what is visibility? Visibility I describe in 2 words. You want to be findable and you want to be attractive. And I don't mean attractive in a good hairstyle. I mean attractive to the search intent. So let's start with findability. Findability means if a SureSec is looking, or if somebody is looking for data security company, somebody who can protect their data, then a SureSec wants to be found. And so if they do things around visibility that help them be found, then they're doing that part of visibility. They're being, when somebody searches for data security, a SureSec comes up. The second thing is attractive. When that person, that buyer comes in and looks at this company's website for data security, what they don't want to see is all this expansion on red team and blue team cyber, or expansion into software development and DevSecOps, or into IT like managed services, or into program management. The bigger and bigger it gets, the more you're distancing yourself from the buyer's search intent. They were searching for data security. When they landed, what they want to see is depth of explanation or depth of content that says, hey, we are a data security company. Now, if you're newer to the market, which you must be if you're looking for your first 8A contract, then you don't have to worry about going crazy on your website. Just make sure what's on your website is not many different things. Make sure it's focused around that core competency. And so visibility is about being findable when somebody is looking for you. And when they find you, you're attractive in the sense that you appear to be the company that matches what they searched for. Okay, so just want to give you a quick story around this, because this happens all the time. I've been doing this 5 years, helping businesses for 5 years, and I frequently hear back from customers who have done the work to become visible, and they start receiving calls from buyers and from large prime contractors. And this is a big deal, right? Sometimes it leads to meetings and you come in. Sometimes they're querying you for data. Other times they're inviting you to bid. Sometimes it leads all the way to a win, right? But The reality is, imagine agencies calling you and asking you to work with them, either to work with them to understand the requirements or what's possible, right? That's capture or in business development, or they invite you to bid. Now you jump into the bid and proposal side. If you can get them to find you, that's a great thing. And that happens when you're visible where they're looking. So let me give you 3 tips on how you can be visible, what you can do today, the steps you should take to become visible. So the 3 steps you should take to become visible are, first thing is your dynamic small business search tool. This is the #1 market research tool in the federal government. All federal buyers are taught about DSBS and told that when you're looking and doing market research, especially for small businesses, right? That's what the dynamic small business search tool is about. Then come to the DSBS tool and to try to find small businesses. I've talked about this before, where 75% of small businesses are virtually invisible within DSBS because they're not putting in narratives and keywords. I have a whole training about how to do that that's free out there that you can find. But the gist of it is you want to go into the dynamic small business search tool and make sure there's at least 2 main things in there. One is the keywords and narratives. So there's 3 fields: capability narrative, special equipment, and keywords. Those 3 make up your keywords and your narratives. Make sure that's filled in. And then the second thing is make sure your past performance. I was talking with a company yesterday that has 20 past performances and none of them are in there. Of course, if you're newer, your past performances will be smaller, but you can put in subcontracting. You can put in state and commercial. If you're an 8A firm, you clearly are doing business somewhere already. And so you can put that experience in, but most of us leave it blank. And so go into DSBS and take care of those 2 main areas, your narrative and keywords, and then your experience. The second place that you should be visible is your company website. I already mentioned this, but just clarifying it on your company website, and it could be 1 page that's in sections. Make sure there's a capabilities section, or the services and products we offer, so that when a buyer is looking, they can quickly see, oh, this is what this company does. That's perfect, because that's what I was looking for when I was told about their company in my searching. So that's one thing. And then the second main thing you want to do is to make sure it's easy for them to move on and do more research. So make sure your UEI and your cage code are on your footer of every page on your website, and make sure it's easy to get your capability statement. That should be there, not gated. Somebody should be able to click on it and download your PDF. You don't want to keep that asset to yourself. You want as many people to have it out there. Okay, the third one is agency portal. So I said you need to make sure DSBS is good. You need to make sure your company website. And these, by the way, I'm telling you, are the 3 that you just need to do. I talk about a lot of other assets, but these are the 3 you must do if you want to win that first 8A contract. You need to be visible. So DSBS, your company website. And the third one is agency portals. Federal agencies out there, many of them, maintain their own supplier portal. This is a database of small businesses just like yours that want to work with that agency. And so when an agency buyer looks, before they go to DSBS, they'll look in their own tool and they'll see if there's vendors in there. And if there are that match that findability and attractiveness, then they'll invite you in to talk, or they'll tell you about a bid's coming up or something. And sometimes they just need to reach 1 vendor or 3, right? So they don't have to go beyond that supplier portal that they run themselves. I'll give you an example of a portal I'm talking about. HHS, Health and Human Services, has a portal, and this portal is beautiful. It's one of the best ones I've seen in the federal agency. So, excuse me, top marks for that. But inside of this portal, they have everybody listed out on whether they're HubZone or 8A, et cetera. There are 1,458 8A firms registered in HHS. But there are 6,370 8As right now, as of this morning, right? And this is February 2023. So right now there are 6,370 8A firms, but only 1,458 are in HHS's portal. Are you in there, right? And if you're a HubZone or SCDL, are you in there, right? If you're not in there, why would they bother even going anywhere else to look? They got 1,000 vendors right here. That's like, I don't know, 20% of the total pool of vendors are in there. And so when I talk about agency portals, figure out what your agency is, your target department, and get in there. If you're in there, you have a chance of being where the buyers look when they go to do market research and they're looking for somebody like you. So here's my challenge to you on maximizing visibility for your company. I would like you to commit to 30 minutes each day to maximizing your visibility. I talked about being visible in DSBS, company website, agency portals. You can do that without overwhelming yourself by committing 30 minutes each day to maximizing visibility. So that's my challenge to you. And you should write that down on your own notepad saying, I'm going to commit 30 minutes. Don't put it in the chat, put it in your schedule, right? Time block 30 minutes out to do that. All right, let me talk about creating a target call list. So the first thing you need to do if you want to get your first 8A small business contract is to maximize your visibility. The second thing you need to do is to create a target call list. The reason for a target call list is because buyers aren't going to be calling you. You need to go to them. Even though I just said visibility will increase the likelihood of people finding you, the reality is only a small portion are going to come to you. You need to target down who do you want to reach and go to them. So I said HHS, it's one thing to put your contact information in the supplier portal. It's another to go knock on their doors, right? Don't just wait for them to come to you. That's a good second tier option. But the first option is to go knock on their doors. And so you need to build a target call list in order to know whose door to knock on. And that's what a target call list is, right? It's just a list of buyers at your target agency that you're going to call. And list of buyers could be contracting officers, contract specialists, could be program office personnel, could be small business professionals. There's a lot of people in there. It is not hard for you to build a list of 1 to 200 names is what we always say. So let me tell you how to create a target call list. The first thing you want to do is to start with our small business professionals directory. We have a directory of like over 1,000 small business professionals, federal agency small business professionals. And you can get that from govconchamber.com. Right on our website, you can find it. And in there, we list the names, numbers, and emails of all these folks. And so many of the agencies you might be targeting, we've already got that information in there. Grab those people and put them into your call list. An example is there's over 100 names just for the Navy alone, right? So there's a lot of names in there. The second thing you want to do, yesterday I did this training on how to find buyers that love 8As, right? And so it ties directly into today. So I want you to use FPDS, the Federal Procurement Data System, to gather acquisition points of contact. These people, I want you to gather their information for ideal awards. These ideal awards are ones that you wish you had won. And so if you go to yesterday's training, you'll be able to see that. By the way, the training, you can find that in our newsletter. So just make sure you subscribe to the newsletter on LinkedIn, and you can see a list of replays if you missed it. But if you go in and you look at FPDS and you find a list of opportunities you wish you had won at the target agency you're going after, inside of FPDS, they share generally the contact information for the contracting office. And so the contracting person, whether it's the specialist or contracting officer, their name, often an email, and then you can find their phone number by doing a little activity. And the last place that you can use, just in the 3 examples I want to give you today to find target information to build your target list, is go to sam.gov. If you go to sam.gov, you can get points of contact for the agency of your choice. If you go into SAM and you find opportunities, again, SAM will show you awards. They'll show you opportunities that are in the future or the past, and you can pull that information up. And when you go into almost any opportunity, at the bottom in the contact section, you will generally find 2 people's names, and they're almost always the contracting officer and the contracting specialist, the 2 people related to that opportunity. You want to add their names into your target call list because they're the ones you want to be able to have introduction meetings with, which I'll talk about in a second. But so the way you build a target call list, just to remind you, is start with our small business professionals directory on the GovCon Chamber website, then go into FPDS and find agency wins that you wish you had won and get their contact information out of there and get the contact information out of sam.gov for a similar type approach. If you do that, you're going to have success. And here's my challenge to you, right? Commit 30 minutes each day until you have 200 names. I'm telling you to build a list of 200 names. I can build a list myself in, let's say 2 hours. You don't have to do it in 2 hours. You can take 2 weeks, and that's totally fine. I've been doing this a long time. I should be better at it, right? I'm better at chess than my son, but my son's eventually going to beat me over and over as he gets experience. And it's the same thing for all of us, right? And so commit 30 minutes each day until you have 200 names. It might take you a couple of weeks, but you will have a bunch of people at your target agency that you can call. And that leads me to the third bullet on how to get your first 8A contract within the federal market, right? It's daily outreach. The third tip is perform daily outreach. And Daily outreach, just to be clear, it's about picking up the phone and scheduling introduction calls. Outreach, if you've ever tracked on our 7-step process, and let me just show that really quick. The 7-step process right here, it's research, targeting, and outreach. And I kind of been talking to you about this. Today, I've left off research for a second. I said, be visible, and then do targeting, and then do outreach, right? I don't want you to get caught up too much on research because you're trying to win that first 8-day contract. But outreach is right here. When you do, it's going to lead to relationships and opportunities, which is the path you want to follow. Okay, again, why is outreach important? The reason outreach is important is because it helps you start and build relationships. That is the primary purpose of outreach. It helps you pick up the phone, start calling people, schedule introduction calls. That's the starting to build a relationship. And then by having the meetings, you're starting to build it, and you schedule a follow-on meeting and a follow-on meeting. And now you've got a relationship with a federal buyer that fits into your strategy, right? So the first reason why it's important to do outreach is because it's going to help you start and build relationships. The second reason it's important to do outreach, especially daily outreach, is it's going to allow you to find opportunities in your target agency. How do you find out about opportunities, right? SAM.gov or GovWin or any of these tools that are out there. Well, you're a day late and a dollar short, as they say, when you're looking at one of the tools. You should be talking to the buyer, because as you have relationships with this buyer, they're going to talk to you about opportunities that aren't even out there in these tools yet. Oh yeah, I know this program office has been talking about next year, maybe going after this thing. Or you know what, we have this simplified acquisition that's under $25,000, so it's not even in SAM, that you might be a fit for. Let me have you connect with the buyer, the program office in there. So when you do daily outreach, you're going to build relationships and you're going to learn about opportunities. I had a customer doing daily outreach, and I just want to share this quick story that they were able to start having meetings immediately within a week or two of them starting the process of picking up the phone and calling people, daily outreach, right? They were able to have meetings, and some of those meetings led to contracts, right? And one particular person I'm thinking about, one of our customers, they did outreach and they were able to start getting in, and they started winning contracts. And these were what I call tiny contracts, under $100,000, right? Those might be nice, good contracts actually when it's your first one. But these tiny contracts, they were able to get in there and win through this outreach because they made the buyer aware of who they were. And then I watched as they were able to evolve that to then they were getting invited to participate on little bigger opportunities. And the most recent one that I was hearing about was several $1 million opportunity coming out that the government is asking them, hey, we want you to be looking at this opportunity and bidding. The government's not just going to hand it to them, but what the government is saying is, we know who you are, we like you, and we trust you. Now we want you to come in and be one of the bidders in here. That's the whole idea of doing outreach, is it starts building relationships that lead to opportunities, just like it did with this customer. So let's talk about how do you do daily outreach. And I just want to give you 3 quick tips on how to do outreach or daily outreach. The first thing is when you're picking up the phone, right? Targeting is about a name, a number, and an email. When you pick up the phone, you're just going to call and leave a voicemail. If they don't, if they happen to answer, then you're going to talk to them and you're going to schedule a meeting. What you're trying to do is to just schedule an introduction meeting. The voicemails that I leave, make sure you have a script so that you read the same script every time. You're not winging it. You're calling them saying, hey, we're a firm that does data security. We'd love to have an introduction call. By the way, we're an 8A small business, right? You don't have to lead with that tag, but there's nothing wrong with saying that tag, or you can follow up with it. So the first thing you're going to do is call and leave voicemails for this targeted list of 200 names, right? The second thing you're going to do is follow up with an email. And what you're doing is just starting the marketing process with them. People take time. We call it marketing touches, 20 to 60 touches. Inside the GovCon chamber, we say it takes 7 hours for somebody to get to know you. Well, these voicemails and following up with an email, that's the beginning of getting them to know you. Before they even like or trust you, they have to know you. And you following up like this is going to help them get to know you. And the third tip I want to say is that you want to be persistent, right? You're looking to get a federal contract that's worth $100,000 or it's worth $1 million at some point, right? If you want a contract that's worth that kind of money, then you need to be persistent, put in the work, and don't give up. When you talk about how do you get your first contract, it is being in front of the buyer. The rest of the stuff you kind of got covered with the focus, right, of what you sell. But if you can't get in front of the buyer, you're not going to be able to sell anything. And so by picking up the phone and scheduling an introduction call, you're going to have, you're going to develop those relationships that will lead to you identifying opportunities, and those opportunities will lead to your first contract. And here, it's the same thing as I said before. Maximize visibility, time block 30 minutes for that every day. Targeting 30 minutes every day. Outreach, the one we just talked about. I want you to commit 30 minutes each day to calling buyers. If you commit to picking up the phone and calling buyers, you're going to call 5 or 10 every day. That's going to start adding up to real numbers of people that begin to get you in front of buyers who actually want to work with you. But it takes time and numbers to get it going. But if you start this process within 30 days, you can be in front of buyers who will be able to guide you towards your first contract. But you got to pick up the phone. You got to get started doing some of this stuff. So just as a recap, there is no secret to winning your first 8A contract. There's no secret to it, right? It's just a process. Have clear focus on what and who you sell to. Maximize your visibility so buyers can find you. And then create a target list of federal buyers to call. And finally, you want to sit there and commit daily outreach to build relationships with federal buyers that'll lead to those opportunities. My tip for you, the last thing I want you to do is go into DSBS right now. It's dsbs.sba.gov and perform a keyword search. Don't look for your company. Perform a keyword search around what you sell. Does your company come back in the results? How does your profile look when you see it? Right? That's what your buyers are going to see. And that's the first thing I want you to be paying attention to, because you'll want to clean that up when you sit there and pay attention to visibility. If you're not subscribing to our newsletter, go ahead and subscribe to that by visiting my LinkedIn profile. And you can subscribe today. That's where you can see the topics we're discussing. We're discussing 8A businesses all week and the process around succeeding as an 8A. So there's 3 more, and I want you to be able to join us as we go forward. And I do want you to remember that government contracting is not a secret. It's just a process. I'll see you in the next training.